Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, Hurricane Ian, a lot of devastation through southwest Florida, and a couple of broadcast engineers worked really hard to keep stations on the air and get them back on the air and make repairs as necessary. A lot of interesting challenges. So Hal Kneller and Kevin Trueblood join Chris, Tarr, and me on this episode of TWiRT. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcasters General Store, with outstanding service, savings, and support. Online at bgs.cc. By Broadcast Bionics, with the Bionics Studio, including talk show control, social media, and visual radio. Broadcast Bionics brings exceptional audience engagement to radio and TV. By Angry Audio. Audio problems disappear when you get angry at angryaudio.com. By Nautel, worry-free transmission you can count on with outstanding control, reliability, efficiencies, and Nautel's unmatched 24/7 customer support. Online at nautel.com. And by Max Connect Wireless, prioritized high-speed internet service designed for transmitter sites and remote broadcasts. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. And this week, we've got some amazing stories from a couple of engineers who went through Hurricane Ian. Was it Ian? Hope I got that name right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I don't know. For some reason, another name popped in my head. I thought, was that it? Oh, gosh. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack. I'm here in the Nashville studios for This Week in Radio Tech, and it's the Telos Alliance studio. Thanks a lot to my employer, Telos Alliance, for giving me a little bit of time on Thursdays to put this show together and bring it to you. So I appreciate that. Check out Telos Alliance on the web at telosalliance.com. All right. It's a beautiful day here in Nashville. Chris Tarr is here from his lair of engineering, where he plans his evil plans. He rubs his hands together like this, makes sounds like this, and plans his evil plans. You're high and dry, no sign of a hurricane anywhere, right, Chris?
No, thank goodness I am not having to deal with the troubles that they're having to deal with down south and to the east a little bit here. Just dreary and cold today. I'll take it.
Dreary. Oh, my goodness. You've got stories to tell, too. We probably won't get to it today, but on another day, you've got some cool stories to tell about an upgrade that you did. You mentioned it last week a little bit.
Yeah, I've been busy. It's been a busy couple of days for me.
I need to hire a photog to follow you around, dude. I know you think that what you do is boring. I don't think so at all. I think it's amazing.
It's always something. I'll tell you that.
Well, let's bring in one of our guests here, the one who's here right now, and that is Kevin Trueblood. Kevin, welcome in. Good to see you.
Kirk, good to see you, and actually glad to be here now that I have power and internet back. It's amazing what happens when you get those modern conveniences.
So the elevator speech is, or the headline is, you went through a hurricane. I saw a picture of your house with those shutters on it, the roll down shutters, the all hurricane proof stuff. And so you've got some tales to tell and lessons learned, I suppose, about broadcasting through a hurricane.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I've got about 1,000 stories to share, and well, and I'll put it this way. I, grew up in the Midwest, and Chris, I'm from your neck of the woods as well. And I will take a 2-foot snowstorm any day over going through Hurricane Ian. I'm not interested in doing that again.
Oh, wow. Well, as long as you live in Tampa, you may.
Yeah, it's true.
I just say, I do remember somebody posting when they moved to Florida every couple of days about what the temperature was down there. So, I'm just saying.
Now, to be fair, I fully expected all of my friends to post great pictures of the fall weather they were experiencing while there was 100-mile-an-hour winds outside my office. That would have been fully fair to do.
No, we respect you and we understood what you're going through. Now, another week or so, we'll start posting the fall colors.
Fair enough.
Oh, wow. Hey, Hal Kneller is scheduled to join us. He actually lost internet at his house this afternoon. They're probably making repairs in the neighborhood. And so he's out on his way to a transmitter site right now where he might. Oh, we have him here. Oh, okay. Well, let's see if I'm hearing some chirps that don't sound good. Hal, are you there?
Oh,
yeah. Hey.
I am here. And
all
you
right.
can tell it's
good to.
right.
Well, I don't know. It sounds like the echo suppression and the noise cancellation is working really hard. If there's any chance you can get closer to your microphone, I promise we'll hear you better because it's really squelching out.
How is that? Is that working any better?
That's about 80% better. Yes.
Okay, great. There's transmitter blower noise in here, and this is not an ideal studio, but CenturyLink DSL came back up here about 35 minutes ago. So when I discovered that, I said, well, maybe I can run over here and get on, because we lost Comcast at home about 2 hours ago.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, thank you for making the trip to the transmitter site. As you may have seen, Kevin Trueblood is with us. Chris Tarr is with us. It's going to be a busy show. We're going to get right into it. But first, I want to let you know about Nautel. They're the ones who do that Transmission Talk Tuesdays. They're taking the month of October off. They'll be back in November. So we're going to talk for just a minute about their new VX series of FM transmitters. Now, you know the company I work for, Telos Alliance, we have a VX series. They're telephones. And I guess the folks at Nautel thought, that's working out really well for Telos. So we're going to name one of our transmitters the VX series. These are some beautiful transmitters. I got to put my hands on one of these at Las Vegas, and they've been bringing these transmitters out from 150 watts to 6 kilowatts. It's an analog FM rack mount transmitter, easy to service. You can actually swap out the power amplifier pallets without lighting up a soldering iron. It's pretty amazing how they have engineered this thing electrically and mechanically. The VX series of transmitters from Nautel. Hey, Chris Tarr, I wonder if you know anything about the VX. Did you get to look at one of these while you were there?
Well, I wasn't there, so I didn't get a chance to look at it. However, I imagine that Jeff will have one on display next week at the WBA Broadcasters Clinic.
Ah, that's right. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. I'll be there. So hopefully we'll see him and you. And I know that I was just amazed by this thing. This is not the transmitter for everybody, but if you need what so many stations need, a compact, efficient, and affordable FM transmitter that again is analog. If it may someday have HD capability, it doesn't have it at the moment, but you do get RDS, SNMP, the phone home for enhanced customer service, their advanced user interface, the AUI, 100% North American design build, and of course that famous Nautel support as you might expect, a long service life design. But when you look in this thing, you're going to see, oh, wow, that's going to last a long time. They do have models that are certified for LPFM. So they have all the filtering in them that they need to satisfy LPFM, and a 4-year warranty. I'll say that a different way. A 4 freaking year warranty. That's pretty good. The Nautel VX series, go to nautel.com and you can hit the drop down on their products and on the FM transmitters and go get the VX series. Check it out from Nautel. Thanks a lot, Nautel, for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right, Kirk Harnack, Chris Tarr, Kevin Trueblood, Hal Kneller's here. We've got so many pictures and videos, and that's the best way to tell this story. And we've got to take a couple more breaks during the hour for our sponsor messages. So let's get right into it and give our viewers and listeners their money's worth here. Hal was quick on the draw to send me some pictures. So Suncast, I don't know what order you've got, if any particular order, but if you want to start with what makes sense to you, Suncast, I'll get Hal and Kevin to jump in appropriately as we move through the pictures. All right, whose picture was this? Speak up.
That's my picture. And the interesting thing about how we went through this storm was for WGCU Public Media, we actually had our partners over at Fox 4, so the script station in our market, utilized our studios. Their studios are located in an area in Cape Coral that was expecting the worst of the storm. And we had this agreement for like the last 3-4 years. And they have a fiber circuit in our building, and they had rehearsed their disaster recovery plans to come into our building by actually having their talent come over and actually have the producers come over and test everything for their control room. And this was actually their staff in our control room for television and using our studio. So they're actually taking over all of our TV production space so that they could broadcast safely in our building throughout the storm. And they were there for almost 4 full days.
Kevin, I guess we should point this out. You've got FM radio there, but you also have public television there, right?
That's right. So we are public television and radio for Southwest Florida, and we don't use our television studio during a storm. We focus all of our coverage on our radio side. So that's what made this available for them. And so they, like I said, they took it over, and we had a lot of staff in our building all covering the storm together. So this was a picture of them. They didn't use any of our equipment. They brought all of their own equipment and did their switching in a different hub in a different city. So all they did was just set up their cameras. This is all just their computers and all of their producers producing the news.
Did you have access to public internet to get that switching done elsewhere? Was it satellite uplinked? How did that work to get it switched elsewhere?
That was all over dedicated fiber links. So they were sending all of their video back over a dedicated fiber link.
Wow. Let's move on and see the next picture. We got a lot to buzz through here. Suncast, what do you got up for us next?
Oh, this one came from a site that's one of the transmitter sites that we'll tell you about that went underwater. This was on the road out of the transmitter site. So this one in particular is about maybe 2-3 miles inland from Fort Myers Beach, which is where, if you watch the news, that's where a lot of that destruction is. So a lot of those boats washed on shore, and was one of them. So that was a random barge that was outside of this transmitter site that was just dropped there.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, like I said, that's a couple of miles inland. This is another picture of the Fox 4 crew that was in our buildings. They basically used our big green screen and our lights. The interesting thing was they ended up having to put up a backdrop behind them because they initially used the green screen, but it didn't key out very well. Because it was a compressed video feed, so it didn't key out very well. So they ended up putting up their normal backdrop behind it, and they did the rest of the news that way.
I'm guessing the weather people still use the green side of it, and the news had the backdrop.
Yeah, they did. They actually did the keying locally, so they had access to their weather computer and everything that they were doing. And that was actually running through just a little Blackmagic switcher that was sitting on that table right in front of them. And so they were being sent a separate video feed that was just the weathercasters using the green screen behind them and the weather behind them.
Wow. All right, what's next?
So part of the fun of getting a lot of rain and getting a hurricane is your sites become inaccessible. And we had one site in particular that you could not get down that road. No car could go down it. You had to take a swamp buggy, or you had to get the guys who lived in the neighborhood to load up their big, huge pickups with their 200-gallon fuel tanks in the back of it. And what we had to do was we had to meet the fuel truck driver at the end of the road and then fill up the tanks. And then these guys would ferry it 2 miles down the road to the transmitter site, top off one generator. And there's 3 total broadcasters down at that site, being K-Love Educational Media Foundation, Renda, and then Beasley Broadcasting. So these guys were doing all of them. They'd go down, they'd fill it up, and then they'd drive back up the road, fill up the tank, and then they had to make a couple of trips. So that's what this guy is doing.
Wow. Gee, Merry Christmas. It's good to have local help. So those people lived in the area. And
it was that guy, and it was a guy and his friend, and his mom owned the general store that was at the end of the road. And he lived in the area, and he got his buddy, and they were the ones that drove us down there. So it was great to have them around. They knew it. And every time, proving again, this is rural Florida that we're talking about. And so he took us down this road, and he's like, oh yeah, that's where Bill lives. And Bill works for AT&T, and he's out working on the cell phones right now. So I got to know the people in the area pretty well.
I got to imagine that you were talking about differences in the weather. You guys have the hurricanes, and Chris Tarr's got the snow. But Chris, I can imagine there's people that live near transmitter sites that probably aren't too different from the fellow we saw in the back of the pickup truck, that if you need a little help, they might help you out.
Oh yeah, no, up here it's farmers. We get stuck in the snow or stuck in the mud, and they come by with their tractors and pull us out. Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Yep. Okay. Oh, that happened to me in Iowa a couple of times, and a John Deere tractor pulled me right out.
All right. Hey, I think we want to, Suncast mentioned he would like to show a video. So we have a couple of videos to show here during the show. Let's, Suncast, when you're ready to show one, let's take a look. Oh, what's this?
This is Wink Television in Fort Myers. That's the first television station to come on the market in the early 1950s. It's the CBS affiliate for Fort Myers and Naples, Southwest Florida. They are located right by the Caloosahatchee River, and I guess in 60 years of being at that site, they never got flooded until now. We are understanding that the building is pretty much a total write-off.
Oh my goodness!
Yep, there's a scene of it coming down the stairs.
They're actually back in their building. They fixed it up, and they're back in their building.
Oh, they're back in the building now, Kevin? That's great. They were broadcasting from the transmitter site. We've got a couple of pictures of that.
Wow. Do you know what this looks like, this video? If you're into watching any of the space shows, Star Trek, whatever, and they beam down to, they beam over to a ship that had distress calls, right? And everybody's dead. It looks like, my gosh, it looks like that. Because and then here, okay, whose video is this?
So this one's mine. Here in a moment, you're going to see so that's our transmitter site, our TV and FM transmitter site. And at 7:00, as you can see, as the worst of the hurricane was sitting over on top of the transmitter site, we lost the awning. And the fun part about having security cameras around your site is you get to replay the footage time and time again. Maybe again. To your amusement, but to at least prove to people, like, look at this, look what happened to our site, and show the insurance adjusters that you're not making it up. This is the other angle, because it ended up landing in our front yard. That's about that's about 40 yards away from where it was, and it just landed there in the front yard of our site.
Oh my God. And that's the awning that was in the other picture.
So,
wow.
Yeah, that awning covered up all of those cooling condensers that you saw, and there's no problem that it's gone. All that stuff is waterproof, but it's like, well, I kind of liked having that awning there.
Gee. Well, because normally you got hot Florida sun, right? Oh, we got one more video here.
This is our friends taking us down to the site, and it was a little bit of water.
Yeah.
This was actually the shallow part. This was the deeper road to travel down. There was another one that was even deeper, and we didn't take that road. This was the back road that he knew how to take us on. So, yeah, that was the adventures in getting fuel topped off, because some of the tanks were starting to get pretty dry.
We're going to continue our conversation with Hal Kneller and Kevin Trueblood and Chris Tarr, looking at damage and recovery right after Hurricane Ian went through Southwest Florida. And our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Broadcast Bionics. They can help you make much better content and really not working any harder. They do all kinds of automatic stuff. Let's hear about the Bionic Studio. We'll be right back with Hal, Kevin, and Chris.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Thanks a lot to Broadcast Bionics at bionics.co.uk to check out their website. Of course, they have dealers in the U.S. and all over the world, so you can put their technology to use, as so many broadcasters have. And their stuff is all broadcaster tested. I mean, it's in use at lots and lots of radio stations. I've been to a number of them in the U.K., in London, where, I mean, it's big time and it works well. But even for small stations, their technologies really work well and help you make better content. Thanks again. Broadcast Bionics. All right, we're with Kevin Trueblood, Hal Kneller, and Chris Tarr here. And if we get, Suncast, I love this 4-shot. This is great. And it's good to see that Hal has been elected the best husband. That is, what does it say under husband? Anything, or just best husband there, Hal?
That's it. Best husband ever. Best husband ever.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
He's just bragging.
I know, geez.
Did you get any no votes on that, or were they all thumbs up votes on that election?
I don't know. She gave it to me for my birthday.
Good deal. Oh, all righty. Well, we're going through pictures and stories from the Hurricane Ian. Hal, we haven't heard much from you yet. If you could just give us a little thumbnail of what you were doing, what you prepped for, and what happened during and immediately after the hurricane's passage. Hal?
Well, I do contract work for a number of radio stations. We made sure that the generators were fueled up at those sites that had automatic generators. I have several sites that I deal with that use portable generators, so I spent the days before getting the gas cans filled and stocked into those buildings. So I had about 60 gallons of gas between the different sites in 5-gallon jugs. So we were off the air when the power failed in the middle of the storm, and that was planned, that we wouldn't be going out in the middle of the storm to try to put gas in the generators. So the storm continued until, I would say, in my area, about 10 o'clock on Wednesday night. So we just let it go until early Thursday morning, and I called over to the first site at about 7 o'clock in the morning and got the generator out and got it started. Got 2 of them back on the air. The third one had no internet, couldn't do much of anything, so we let that one go for now. Finally got some temporary internet with a wireless provider that was good enough to help us out. And with the gasoline in the generators, which, by the way, every 8 hours I was feeding, we managed to get all of the stations back on the air. And yesterday, I was running low on fuel, and I had some jugs in the trunk to go get some gas. And I got a text message from somebody right next door to the transmitter site that said, "Hey, our power just came back on." So I headed back with the empty gas cans, switched the transfer switch, because it's a manual switch. You can see it right behind me, and got back on the air. Then we, of course, had a little yard cleanup at home, and there's some pictures that will be coming up later. And the last few days, I've been feeding generators and running around getting internet connections back and trying to call internet providers. Pretty difficult to do. They don't always answer their phones. But this site that I'm at right now just got its internet back a little while ago, and I'm glad to say I was able to run over here, and there's a desktop PC that has a camera on it, and it's the transmitter site PC, and here I am, and I'm sorry it's a little noisy back there. I don't have a microphone or anything else, so I'm just using the built-ins.
Actually, it sounds now that you're closer. Yeah, it sounds great. Sounds great.
All right, great.
But there sits Kevin Trueblood in his beautiful studio. Now, Kevin, you weathered the storm right there in the house, right? I think you sent your family away and you stayed.
Oh yeah, my family actually at this current point in time is right up by you, Chris, up in Wisconsin. They're enjoying that lovely fall weather. But yeah, actually, I was at the office the whole time, so the pictures that you were seeing with the Fox 4 people, we weathered the storm at work, and a lot of that's because, well, we got to be there to provide our coverage. And when the storm starts, you can't go anywhere. So I might as well be where all of our staffers are and be ready to deploy and keep track of all the statuses. And not to mention the fact that there's air conditioning and there's backup power. So I don't have to sit in the dark and wonder what's happening outside. So yeah, I wrote it through it. And interestingly enough, the way the storm hit Southwest Florida, so we're on the Florida Gulf Coast University campus, and it really, everybody watched it on the news that it just kind of slowly went up the coast and then really slowed down. And the eye wall sat over our location for probably 4 hours at least. Because it just sat, we got different sections of the eye that just kept running over us as it was moving further north. So, we were sitting in 100-mile-an-hour winds for hours, and that was pretty rough to experience. Hal was right in he took the brunt of it where he was. We kind of got the side of it, but we were in the eye wall nonetheless. But it hit Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte a whole lot harder than us.
Let's look at some more pictures. I know we've got pictures, and I want to make sure we get to all of them. Oh, here's a permanent generator. What's going on?
Yeah, that was the other half of the image that you saw of the guy fueling up at the end of the road. This is now at the transmitter site where they were basically unloading the fuel and putting it into the generators. This one's the generator for the K-Love station here. So topped it off and got him back on the air. That one, actually, the interesting thing about that one was the site didn't actually lose utility. It lost one phase of the utility power. Didn't fully lose power. So the generator never actually automatically started. This one didn't. So we had to manually turn it on once we were able to get there and put fuel in it. And so it was off the air a couple of days, but we got it back on once we were able to start the generator and then manually throw it to a generator. And then I think it was 3 days later, the power came back. So the power recovery down here has been nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure it depends on who you talk to. There's a lot of people still in the dark, but in general, it's come back a whole lot faster than it did after Irma.
Yeah. Well, we've seen pictures of dozens and dozens of trucks. What's this? Whose picture is this one?
So this one's mine. So this comes from the transmitter site that went underwater. This particular site got 3 feet of water inside. And this is a particular site that also went through a fire a month and a half ago. So pretty sure this site is cursed. So there's a couple of stories to unfold out of this picture. So what you're looking at is a security footage of the outside of the building, looking out into the parking area in front of the transmitter site. This one's the one that's a couple of miles from Fort Myers Beach, where you saw the barge parked. So what you're looking at out there is not only the water level, and it's now that railing is where the stairwell is. So it is getting into the building at this point. But what you're looking at is a couple of dumpsters that were left over from the fire back in August. And those are literally Harris transmitters floating in the water because they were destroyed by the fire and sitting in a metal salvage bin. And so they are there in the floodwaters floating in front of the building.
Oh my goodness. Wow. All right.
Yeah, that was a real image to see. So this is one I just took yesterday. I got a call from a contract station out in LaBelle, Florida. They're just outside LaBelle. And they were not able to get on the air. They couldn't figure out why they were getting on the air. And I drive out there and I hear the familiar ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk of a dehydrator trying to operate and can't. And so what you're actually seeing is, if you can actually go back to the first picture first, or go back to that last image, there's a reason for that. And I didn't look up at the tower yet and put the transmitter on, and the transmitter only went to about 200 watts, and the Viswar alarm went off, and then it shut back down. Well, at the very, very top, you see 3 brackets. That's where the antenna bays used to be.
They're supposed to be there.
It's where it's supposed to be. Now, if you look on that cell panel, on this picture, it's a little more obvious. On the left side of that cell panel, that's where they are. They fell off the tower and are just basically tangled in that cell panel up there. So needless to say, they're off the air.
Yeah. Wow. Now, but there's also.
So they're actually further away from where the center of the storm was too. So that didn't take a whole lot of winds for that to get sheared off.
Wow. Okay. All right. Moving on. Ooh,
so this actually I got from Facebook, from the guy who runs the relevant radio translator that's in this building. This was the floodwaters that came in that building. They had a camera trained on that, and the floodwaters were coming in. and the room got about 3 feet of water into it. So suffice to say, basically anything that was in that room is destroyed. If it didn't get directly underwater, the moisture afterwards got to it. And because that's all salt water, that's all water from the Gulf of Mexico that basically corroded everything.
I thought I see a Nautel transmitter that I thought I heard that was fairly new. You know?
That one actually belongs to another group, and that one's been there for a few years. There's actually an interesting story that we'll get to as we get to a different image.
Okay. I'm having trouble deciphering what I'm seeing. It looks like coming out of the top of that rack, the big white tongue of whiteness there.
Yeah, so that was again, this was a site that was hit by a fire a couple of months ago. And basically, and the fire was on the other side of the room, and the whole room was full of soot. I mean, every surface, the ceiling looked like it was painted black and it used to be white because of all the soot. So everything was heavily smoke damaged. And as we got the building back up and started cleaning up the building and reoccupying it, one of the concerns was the soot and the particulates that were in the air. And so what you're looking at, that's actually, that rack was used by Renda. They had a Nautel that was behind that filter. And as we had it on the air, that filter basically was letting the equipment breathe, but taking all that soot out of the air. So that's what you're looking at. It's a big sheet of filter material.
It's a big air filter. Okay.
Exactly. That's a good summary. Yes.
Wow. What's next?
So behind that last picture, there was another wrapped transmitter, and that's a Harris HPX. That's the water line. So the water in the room got to that level of the transmitter. And suffice to say, it doesn't work anymore. Now, one thing to highlight is you can see on the bottom of the screen that copper strap. That copper strap was brand new 3 weeks before that. So you can see it's all tarnished and corroded. That's all from the salt water that was on it. I mean, that was 3 week old copper.
It's turning the color of the Statue of Liberty, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and getting eaten away too.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, that's sad.
Okay, that one's mine. WSRQ partners as a radio station with ABC 7 Channel 40 in Sarasota. And you can see the banner below. But this is where we realized that we were going to get it really bad, because you can see Naples just above his arm. You see the eye of the storm very clearly defined. And this is just before it made landfall by a couple of hours. And it's heading straight towards us. It was heading northeast at about only 9 miles an hour at this point.
Wow.
Next.
Okay. What's next?
Okay, this is a picture of the very temporary studio that the folks from Wink TV, WINK TV, set up at their transmitter site in Fort Myers. And they managed to do this about 2 days after the hurricane. And they were simulcasting it on their 100,000 watt FM station, WINK FM, because most of the area didn't have electricity. So, not a lot of people could watch television if they didn't have power. But these guys did a heck of a job. Next. I love this one. I was a child of the 1950s. And those of you who remember any of the 1950s television will remember that this is how they did the weather back in those days. Sometimes they would use, a yellow sun, and they'd paste it up there. Usually in those days, it was a blackboard. We used a whiteboard here. But this was a definite throwback to the days. They pulled those RE20 mics out of the radio station, and, you could hear transmitter noise in the background. I watched them on the air. As I said, they did a terrific job under terrible circumstances. And this guy, Matt DeWitt, is very well known in the area for doing weather and posting all kinds of interesting things on his Facebook page.
His artistic skills are pretty good there. All those suns and clouds look pretty consistent.
They're not bad. Not bad.
And oh my goodness, nice handwriting there. And then and on the floor right behind him, behind his
Yeah,
knee.
you see the elbows and other stuff.
That was
As
our
I
clue.
said, it was the transmitter site.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Next.
Let's yeah.
Okay, this one is just north of me. This is Interstate 75, which runs from basically Miami on up to I think Minnesota, goes up through Ohio and whatever. But this is our lifeline for bringing food and fuel to Southwest Florida. Without I-75, there's no good way to bring supplies to Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Fort Myers, and Naples. In fact, some of the crews that were coming to our area had to go all the way across the state to I-95 and go down to the Atlantic coast and come across Alligator Alley and come up I-75 from the south, making what would have been a 2-hour trip from Tampa into like an 8-hour trip. But this is in Northport, just north of us, and that water fortunately receded in about 18 hours.
Wow.
Next.
I tell you, we're going to take a quick break and be back. Hal Kneller and Kevin Trueblood are with us. They both went through this Hurricane Ian in Southwest Florida and working for different types of broadcasters. Hal's telling us that he had a lot of portable generators and generators that need to be serviced pretty frequently. And then Kevin had some permanently installed generators, but not all of them came on and worked right away. So there's some stories to tell there. Chris Tarr is along as well, and we're sponsored in part by the folks at Broadcasters General Store. And Innovonics is one of the lines that they carry there. Innovonics has just amazing products. I've recently picked up some Innovonics products at my radio stations and just love them. But we're going to hear a quick word from Innovonics and be right back.
Hi, this is Gary Lerman. I'm Sales and Marketing Manager from Innovonics. I'm joined here by our President and CEO, Ben Barber, and we're here to tell you about 2 new products that we're very excited about. They're HD modulation monitors, the model 551 and 552, and Ben's going to take us through some of the features. Ben, what can you tell us about these?
The 551 has the big display, 7-inch touchscreen display. You can look at different parameters instantly by walking up to it and touching it, getting information that you need. It also has the LED displays for FM total modulation, left, right, FM, HD 1, 2, 3, and 4. The other thing that the 551 has is that it has full-time audio outputs on studio hub connectors on the back, both analog as well as AES digital. So you've got FM, HD 1 through 4, they're full-time. The 552 doesn't have the display, doesn't have the metering, and doesn't have the full-time audio outputs, but the web interfaces are identical for remote viewing and monitoring.
Great, thanks very much, Ben. These products are going to be available in January 2022. Contact us at innovonicsbroadcast.com for more information. Thanks very much.
And that means they're available now at Broadcasters General Store. Go to bgs.cc. That's the website, bgs.cc. Or give them a call. They love to hear from you on the phone. And believe me, they're well equipped to talk to you on the phone at 352-622-7700. 352-622-7700. All the things you need for broadcasting, including a lot of items for television studios. So if you're putting some TV studios in your radio station or just want to better outfit your television studio, Broadcasters General Store is a great place to go. And I guess they were out of the way of most of the hurricane in Ocala, Florida. In fact, Hal, you know the folks at BGS. How'd the hurricane affect places like Ocala?
I actually was texting with somebody up there, not connected with Broadcasters General Store, but they got some wind and rain, not anything compared to what we got on the coast. But they did have a bad day, and there was some minor damage up there.
Okay. All righty. Well, good deal. All right. Thanks again to Broadcast General Store and Innovonics for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. All right. We're in the middle of looking at more pictures. Hey, Chris Tarr, you got any comments or questions at this point before we hit our next picture?
No, I'm just, and I say this with all due respect, I'm glad I'm not there. I mean, that's just wow. I'm so impressed by, how you guys were managed to put this together. That is so impressive. And the closest I've come is we had and Kevin, you probably remember, several years ago we had a huge blizzard up here, where we got several feet of snow and basically shut everything down. And I stayed at the station, and it was something kind of similar, but still not on nearly the scale that you guys are dealing with. And I guess, one of the things that it goes to is, you guys obviously did a really good job with preparation and emergency planning to get through this.
I mean, it's essential, really. I mean, because it's not a question of if something like this is going to happen, it's a question of when. And, one thing I can tell you is a lot of the broadcasters have, we've rehearsed this, we've planned it, we know it's going to happen, and to make sure that we have our options available to us, and to have the backups that we need. And I'll tell you, and Hal, I know you can probably speak to the same thing too, that for what we've done for all the broadcasters in this area, I can't even say enough good things about our medium right now, and that all of the stations have been on the air and airing nonstop information, music formats suspended for, the iHeart stations are still a week later doing their own wall-to-wall coverage. Everybody's really stepped up, and it's done well for the community. I listened to, it was like, a time machine hearing on Saturday. The stations would, go back to how it used to be, where it was, hey, caller 1, what's going on? Hey, there's ice over at the Shell station at 4th and 10th Street. Okay, thanks. Hey, caller 2, what's going on? Hey, there's a gas with no line over on Main Street. Okay, thanks. Caller 3. And just doing that on both Spanish language stations and on English language stations. It was incredible.
Wow. Would you say, Kevin and Hal, I'll ask Kevin first, do more people before, during, and after, are they tuning into television or radio? I imagine before, a lot of folks are looking at television because you got the radar there. But once it hits, where are people turning to get information?
This is the second big storm that I've been through since I moved down here. And I think both of these storms had the same common theme, that I think people don't know that battery powered radios are a thing, like actually at home in 2022. And I say that because I had one of my neighbors talking to him. She goes, I need to get one of those because in my neighborhood, this is one of my neighbors that I was talking to. She's like, we lost power, we lost cell service, and the storm was still going on. We had no idea what was happening because they were watching TV and then they had no cell service. So they were having a friend of theirs, what limited cell service they would get, text them images of the satellite. And I'm like, if you had a radio, we would have kept you up to date the whole time. So I know, at least for the public radio side, we've been doing a big campaign with membership and with a lot of our marketing to offer emergency radios that are solar powered, that are crank powered, that you can charge. These things are pretty utility things for exactly this purpose. And I think we really need to do a good job in marketing that to people, because that's exactly what happened. People were watching TV and then poof, it went away. And now what? Well, okay, my cell phone. Well, that doesn't work either. And cell phones here did not reliably work until, it was still over the weekend that it was still not reliably working. I'd say Sunday was when it started working better. And that was that's 4 days that we didn't have cell service.
They're still not working reliably here. We're still having issues with cell phones. In fact, when I lost my Comcast internet at home, I tried to connect to this show with the cell phone, and the data rate was just so slow that it was impossible, and that's why I hightailed it down to this transmitter site.
Wow. And you said at that transmitter site, you've got DSL. My brain associates DSL with really bad service, but you look like you're doing okay there. We've
got 2 internet service providers in here. We've got a cable modem, a business grade cable modem, and we've got a CenturyLink landline DSL. The DSL speed's about 10 megabits down and about 1 megabit up, which for what we use in here, because we have to stream all our audio in from Sarasota to this site, either one of those ISPs will do the job. It's the first time that we've ever lost both of them at the same time, but then we haven't had a catastrophic storm here like this. We didn't even lose internet here during Irma because it went in at Naples and then went inland into Florida. So we were getting the edge of it in this area. So we did not lose power. We did not lose internet. So fortunately, there's a wireless provider on this same tower that we don't normally connect to. But I happened to see him coming up here with his portable generator at the same time I was coming up here with our portable generator. And I said, hey, I'll make a deal with you. If your internet working on your wireless system, I'll fuel the generator for the radio station. You can plug into it, and you give me an internet feed. And that's how we got back on the air, because both of our ISPs were down until just a couple of hours ago.
I love barter at the transmitter site right there.
Absolutely.
What a good scheme. Hey, we've got about 4 pictures left. Let's go ahead and hit our next one and see whose it is. Oh, we
did that one already.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ooh,
so
yeah.
I'm sitting in that building that you see there, and this is the fence that surrounded that building. You can see all kinds of debris on the ground, but that's I no longer need to open the gate to walk in.
Oh no, they don't call that hurricane fencing, do they?
It certainly isn't.
Okay.
They just wanted to make it more convenient for you.
Yes, it did. When I was lugging the gas in, it made it a lot easier. I didn't have to open the lock and open the gate.
Do you store?
Picture.
I see it. I see a bunch of gas bottles. Is that all nitrogen for the light?
That is a Verizon abandoned hydrogen generator.
Oh.
And I think there's still hydrogen in the tanks.
Oh. Okay.
And the door blew off it. So what can I tell you?
Well, good thing they didn't float away. All right.
Yeah. Well, we got no water here. I mean, we got rain, but we got no flood. Next picture, please. Okay.
Oh.
So this is a typical look around my neighborhood in Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte. I don't live in those 3-story buildings. I live in a different part. This is a gated community, but those carports that came apart, it really totaled out a bunch of cars. The insurance adjusters are actually totaling the cars out when they've gotten really badly damaged. It smashed out all the windows. It dented them. Some were just fine. You can see some at the head of that picture, and you can kind of get a perspective on the roof. Now, these roofs aren't as bad as some where you'll actually be able to see plywood. We did get some water intrusion into a lot of these units. Next picture. Okay, this is on the street where I live, and there used to be a lanai on that one unit that's right at the edge of the street there, and that's the roof of his lanai flipped up onto the roof. Now, I took this during the eye of the storm. We had the eye pass right over us, and for about 20 minutes, we had fairly calm weather. And you can see what the wind did there. Next
gracious.
picture.
Wow. And this is the last picture, I believe.
Okay, now this is a close-up of the roof on one of the buildings right by me. And you can see how it really tore up the roof. Now they have tarped all of our roofs. We have blue tarps down. So we're secured in case of rain, certainly not secured for another hurricane. And we'll be getting a lot of new roofs in this area. In fact, thousands of homes will be getting new roofs in this area.
Well, I think it's worthwhile to ask, and these pictures, videos, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for, actually risking your life for the radio and TV stations, for keeping people on the air. And of course, we'll all do this in the interest of keeping people informed. Curiosity. Now, of course, Kevin, you work at a public broadcaster, so you don't have commercials per se. You probably have underwriting. Hal, your clients are both what, commercial and non-commercial? Is that right?
Yes. And the commercial stations pretty much stopped advertising and pretty much completely wall-to-wall news and information. They'd get the emergency management directors on, or whoever they could get, sheriff's department, police department. In a couple of cases, we had interviews with FEMA people. There was all kinds of stuff going on. The area that I was working in was mostly Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, and Sarasota, as opposed to the area to the south where Kevin was.
Hey, Hal, I want to make sure I hear everything you say. So if you could lean in again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a little bit too far back there.
It's okay.
So I was working in the northern areas by Sarasota down to Port Charlotte. Kevin was down in Fort Myers and Naples area. His studios were approximately 40 miles from where I am.
With, I guess, most of the media stops, commercial announcements. And Kevin, I guess you guys probably stop your underwriting announcements.
Oh yeah, yeah. For the most part, it's just wall to wall, and for the commercial broadcasters, a lot of them simulcasted television. They
Mhm.
have, I think iHeart did their own coverage, and then the other groups simulcasted different TV stations, and of course, Wink has their own TV stations. So they did that for a few days, and it actually wasn't until I think like later in the day, Sunday and Monday, that the state actually it was Monday that the stations resumed their normal format.
Well, thank you for actually, Hal. You answered my question before I asked this. I was wondering about what people did. So even let's say you have a smaller station that maybe maybe an EMF, K-Love station, or a station that doesn't have a news department at all. You're telling me that several of them they just rebroadcast other authoritative voices, maybe a TV station's audio, just to make sure that information got
WSRQ
out.
is a non-commercial operation, although it's on some commercial channels. It has 5 separate transmitters in different locations. They were simulcasting WWSB-TV in Sarasota. I showed you their weather guy and the satellite image coming in where the storm was coming in. So we had them on the day before the hurricane arrived, or half a day before it arrived, and we carried them for about 2 days afterwards, and then resumed normal programming for part of the day, and we would be airing periodic updates where we could talk about where there was ice, where there was water, and they were doing special news capsules for us that we were just putting in the rotation.
Now this brings. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So, you remember too, Kirk, during right after the hurricane down in Louisiana, Katrina, all of the broadcasters from different groups got together and created, I think it was like the United New Orleans radio stations or something, where it was Intercom and iHeart and all of these groups pooled their resources, and all of the stations simulcasted the same programming. So,
Yeah.
you do find that in these situations where, all those lines get, all those boundaries get dropped, and it's all about getting together and trying to serve the community at that point.
Hey, Chris, I remember the day I met you on September 11th, and at least all of your stations quit fighting with each other, and they all broadcast the same thing. They became non-competitors, for a while. Wow, wow! Glad to hear that's done. So if during the eye wall passage, if I wanted to watch Matlock or Golden Girls, I'd probably be out of luck. I guess that's fair to say.
That's true. But one interesting thing, Kurt, that that Wink TV did, and also the NBC and CW affiliate did. No, I'm sorry, NBC and ABC, which was WBBH and WZVN TV. They were running wall-to-wall coverage on WBBH TV, Channel 20, and their sister station was running the network stuff. So if somebody didn't want to watch the hurricane coverage, they could watch network stuff on the other one. And I believe Wink did that also with CBS, putting it on the CW station, and kept the wall-to-wall coverage going on Wink TV, Channel 11.
So we've been talking a lot about radio being staying on the air and trying to. What about the TV stations? They're typically equipped with good generators and maybe even a backup antenna, for when they have to do tower work and so forth. Did full power TVs typically stay on the air if you could pick them up over the air?
Yeah, so Wink TV went down when their studios got flooded. They went off the air, and that was like 5 o'clock on Wednesday. So when the storm was still right on top of us, that's when they went down. WGCU TV, my station. Now we don't run coverage on our station. Like we don't go wall to wall on our TV station. Matter of fact, for a long time, we would specifically air children's programming to basically give parents a respite if in the middle of a storm. So we would specifically offer that refuge for the kids. These days, we run our regular programming on it, but we offer a 24/7 kids channel. So parents can still do that. And we stayed on the air until, so Wednesday, the storm hit. Thursday morning, we went off because we lost our fiber circuit to our transmitter site, and we lost our microwave. We have a 7 gigahertz microwave link that's our backup. And Ian did me the courtesy of realigning my dishes. So I had no link to my transmitter site. However, for radio, which is when we go wall to wall with our hurricane coverage, we focus on our radio, and that's where we put our news and on air talents is on our radio side. And we have a backup transmitter site on the on campus. So it's like 100 yards from our studio, and we shut down our main transmitter and just broadcast from our backup one, which interestingly, we never lost power at our studio through the entire storm. I don't know how that happened, but we never lost power at our studio. So we were on the whole time. The radio never was off the air, but TV was off for about 36 hours until I was able to get a tower climber in and fix my path. And matter of fact, my fiber circuit at the transmitter site, which is it's in Hal's backyard, still isn't repaired. It's been down for over a week now, and that's the circuit that I'm missing, but we've been on our backup path since.
Kevin, your doors blew in at that site. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I got believe it or not, in the middle of the storm, I got a burglar alarm. So we have ADT that monitors our site, and I got a burglar alarm in the middle of the storm, and I was like, what? And we logged into our security cameras, and the storm blew the doors open. Just the front doors, I don't know how it happened. I think we figured out, so it's a double door, and you have to do the two latches, one on the top, one on the bottom. The one on the top wasn't secured. So it got enough force in it and sucked the doors open, and it wasn't safe to go out. And so my staff engineers the following morning went up and did the site check to see how everything was, and they secured the door. It wasn't broken. It just, the wind got in such a way that it just blew the doors open.
You said something that just amazed me. 36 hours after the storm, and you got a tower climber. How'd that conversation go on the phone, and when did you have that? Yeah, hi, Bob. I need you to climb my tower.
Well, believe it or not, the guy that I used, he's out of Tampa, and he's been my regular tower climber. His name is Daryl from ITI, and Hal knows him as well. And he does a lot of the stations around here. He does work for almost every group in this market. And matter of fact, he texted me the following morning and said, hey, what do you need? And I go, I need a tower climber ASAP. And so that was Thursday morning. He was on site Friday morning to fix my dish. So we've been a good customer of his. He's a good friend of ours. And so he got us back up and running 36 hours after the storm.
Wow. Hey, what we're going to do, we're going to take our last break right now. And when we come back, we'll have just a few minutes for tips of the week. And so I'm going to ask Hal and Kevin to give us, what went right, what went wrong, but we're only going to have 5 minutes to do that with. Hey, our show is brought to you in part by Angry Audio and Chris Tarr. Look at Chris Tarr. He is the new spokesman for Angry Audio. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, can you grow a goatee like the Angry Audio dude has? Maybe kind of let your hair frizz out a bit.
Yeah, he has a fantastic goatee, actually. So yeah, what I want to talk about, I'm excited, and I know the folks at Angry Audio are excited about this new audio processor called the C-Level. And it's built on their C4 and C6 processors for headphones and streaming. And, as we've talked about in the past, Aphex compellers are no more. Arianes are no more. So it's really getting harder and harder to find a preprocessor. Now, a lot of us in the know use preprocessors to kind of find the sweet spot in your audio processor, in your main audio processor. If you can kind of control your audio and get it right into that nice slot where the audio processor works the best, you're going to get a fantastic sound. And in the past, we've used devices like audio prisms and Aphex compellers and Arianes to do that. And there really was no replacement. And it was just kind of fortuitous. I was on the phone with Catfish from Angry Audio, and I said, hey, you would be my hero if you could come up with something to replace the Ariane. And he said, you want to know something? This audio chameleon that we have, we're working on a version of that to do just what he's talking about. So he sent me one that can function like that. I put it on the air, and it sounds fantastic. In fact, it sounds so good, we're going to be putting in a pretty large order for most of our stations, I think, to put these on the air. There's a picture of it right there. I think the one thing that's a little unsettling about it is there's nothing to do. There's a couple of little controls in it, and that's it. You put it in your audio chain, and you turn it on, and you let it go, and it really does the job well. It's really hard to explain the sound, but it's nice and controlled, yet very open. The high end is nice and silky, and it does the same kind of job I think, is the Ariane, but even better, it's just very transparent yet controlled. So I think one of the things that Cornelius Gold, who's kind of behind the design of this as well, said is that it will make even old processors sound like new again. And I 100% believe it. I've put them in front of Omnia 11s, and of course they sound really good. But I'm betting like that Omnia 6 right there is going to sound a whole lot better with that Angry Audio Chameleon in front of it. It's perfect for STLs too, to get rid of some of that overshoot and the noise floor that you can get inherently with STLs if you're not doing any compression beforehand. So there you go. You can check it out. BGS is another place you can order those. When you're looking for a solution, don't get frustrated. Get Angry Audio and their new Chameleon.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate Angry Audio and your sponsorship of This Week in Radio Tech. And here's Gary Morrill to tell you real quick about the Max Connect modem.
I'm Gary Morrill, Midwest Regional Director of Engineering for Alpha Media. When I first spoke with Josh Bone about Max Connect, he told me they'd work great for remote transmitter sites where connectivity was a challenge. And he's absolutely right. We even have sites where we're using this as a backup to our STL using Max Connect's dual carrier option, and it works perfectly. We also have times where we need to be able to get out to a venue where it's kind of challenging because everybody and his brother is trying to stream video at the same time, like at a big sporting event. And you know what? Our data gets through every time because it's prioritized packet data. It works for us. It'll work for you. Max Connect. Check it out.
Thanks a lot, Josh Bone, for coming up with Max Connect, the great idea where you get prioritized 4G data for your transmitter sites, your remote broadcasts, wherever you need data that's hard to get, and you do get that fixed IP address. All right. Well, let's finish up in the next few minutes here. What did you learn? What would you do the same? What would you do different if you could? And let's throw it over to Hal first. Hal, what are you? How are you different now after the hurricane than you were before?
Sleep, but I think the biggest thing I would try to figure out is alternative connectivity to sites. Even when you have two ISPs, it's still not enough. There may be some alternatives that we can discover because several of the sites that I deal with are exclusively fed through the internet and not with a 950 STL. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the thing that went well was, I think, planning for the fuel for the generators and having generators in place. In my case, all the automatic generators that we have at sites worked flawlessly. We tested them a few days before the storm and knew everything was gassed up or dieseled up, and everything went well from that standpoint. And having the fuel on hand in the portable generators was good because for at least a couple of days after the storm, and Kevin will know this in Fort Myers too, you could not get gasoline.
Of course. Yeah. I was wondering about that. People calling in with, hey, there's gas here, there's gas there. And that kind of implies that not every place has gas or the lines are super long. And by the way, Hal, do your generators use normal, regular motor gas?
The portable ones do. I've got, the rest of them are liquid propane.
Ah, okay.
1,000-gallon tank or 500-gallon tank, depending on the sites. So we could go a week with the LP.
Oh, really? Wow. That's quite good. Kevin, tell us about what you learned and what you do different or the same. Oh, are you muted, Kevin? There we go.
Yeah,
no, you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. That's the lesson that I've learned, and I've seen pay off more than a couple of times in the last couple of months, both going through transmission site fire and now with the storm, is to make sure you have a plan B, not just for your transmission facilities, but for your studios. And you don't necessarily have to have something, lined up, like something rented, but at least have a plan, have resources on hand to be able to execute that. After a disaster, don't plan on anything don't plan on cellular service. Don't bank on anything cellular service. So if you're relying on a 5G backup or something like that, it may not work. At least in hurricane territory, you can't rely on that. And that was the big lesson that a lot of people learned. Matter of fact, there was kind of a joke that the satellite KU trucks came back, which have gone out of fashion in favor of the live view, the bonded cellular. They didn't work because none of the cell providers reliably worked around here. So everybody was using sat uplinks for doing their shots. So yeah, cell phones, make sure you've got a plan B for those. For the cell networks, make sure you've got a plan B for your transmission facilities, a plan B for your studios, and then actually test them, because they're only as good as actually when they're executed. So make sure everything works, make sure everything is well thought out. And that's how you're going to be able to stay on the air and at least get a little bit better sleep at night, because you can execute those plans if you need to.
Wow. Yep. Thanks very much for that advice. Chris, Tarr, you've been here watching and listening to all this, and I know you've got a different set of concerns up there in Wisconsin where you are. Certainly blizzards. You talked about that a bit. But, bad weather can bring about a shortage of cheese, curds, and brats. So how do you guys prepare for that?
That's just the Packers loss.
Yeah. The Packers loss. Yeah. No, we stockpile cheese and beer. I have in Wisconsin, we have something called the garage fridge, the beer fridge. And that's where we stock all of the beer and the cheese. Typically it's a garage or a refrigerator in the garage. So we're all set for that, and as for cell phone service, you don't need it when you're drinking beer. So we don't really care about that.
Oh, good golly. I was just thinking, depending on public internet for STL has become more of a thing. I mean, the company I work for may offer any IP path, and oftentimes public internet is the easiest choice. But there are other ways. IP radio sets is one way to do that. And then you can get more than one supplier of internet as we move forward. So that's it's good to know that you can't depend on cellular, and we as engineers kind of believe that anyway. And turns out that it's true, at least in your case, and in others we've heard too. And public internet may not be reliable. And as broadcasters, we really want to be on the air to give people information that they need. So, hey, we got to go. Hal, thank you so much for joining us, especially making the trip to the transmitter site for your nearest public internet. I appreciate it. And by the way, Hal is going to be back on with us in a few weeks. We got to pick a date. Originally, this show was going to be Hal talking about some different transmitter issues, and I forget what all, Hal, but we decided, let's scrap that and talk about the hurricane. So thanks for changing gears. And Kevin, thank you for making the effort to be here today too. You look nice and high and dry, like your clothes are clean and everything. You don't look like you've been through much, but I know you have.
It's amazing what a hot shower and power will do for you. It does wonders.
I know. Chris tells me that every day.
It's true. It's true.
It's true. Chris, thank you for being here too. I really appreciate you. And look forward to hearing more of your adventures. Hey, I'm not sure what's coming up next week. I will figure it out. And next week we're going to be at the Wisconsin Broadcasters at the Broadcasters Clinic. We're probably going to do the show on a different day. I'm hoping we're going to do the show on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, but I hope we're doing the show on Tuesday. Of course, we'll re-air it on Thursday, and which taken care of on your usual day. We got to go. Hal and Kevin, thank you so much. Chris, thank you, and Suncast, thank you for taking care of all the pictures and the videos and switching our show for us. Really appreciate that. And thanks to all of our sponsors. Be sure you go tell them that you heard about them here and that you do business with them, because they make some good stuff. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.